Around the Ozarks is now on your FM radio. Listen to Around the Ozarks mornings with Grace Gooley as I spotlight local people, stories, and podcasts, all while playing the country legends of the 90s and the hit makers of the 2000s. It's on the Ozarks' best country, 105.1 The Bull.
Welcome to Beyond the Gate, a podcast sharing the grit, growth, and spirit of rural life. From fields to front porches, this is where the heart of agriculture comes alive. Today we go beyond the gates with nationally recognized psychologist, mental health advocate, author, and someone who has spent their career helping people. In the studio today we have Dr. Jeff Brown. Jeff, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I feel welcomed.
Good. Well, we're going to talk a lot about mental health today, but first, who's Jeff?
Who is Jeff? That's a great
the hardest question
I know.
Anyone gets.
I'm used to asking the questions, right?
Well, that's my job.
I know. So Jeff has been around a while at this point. I'm born and raised in Laclede County, Lebanon, Missouri. Mm-hmm. Know a lot about family business and what makes a family business tick. My parents had a dry cleaners, still have the doors open. For over 60 years now.
Isn't that fantastic?
It's fantastic. Yeah. It really is. It's about community. Mm-hmm. It's about being connected to people. In the dry cleaning business, we like when people look good too.
That's right.
So we've been at it for a while. What else you want to know?
I'm
a pretty open book.
Well, let's talk about
tell me.
When did you first realize that understanding human behavior, which is insane to me because why we do what we do is crazy. What was the first time you're like, I want to go into understanding people?
Yeah. I really kind of got the bug for psychology in high school, at Lebanon High School. Mm-hmm. My teacher that taught, it was an elective psychology class. And after one semester, there were a little gaggle of us that decided we want advanced psychology class too. So we said, hey, could you put that together? Of course not. Curriculum takes time to build, so they didn't do it. But I went on to Southwest Baptist from there, declared a psychology major, found out somewhere about my sophomore year that if you're really serious about psychology, you need to think about grad school. It's like, wait a minute, what's that? More school? So then I was playing baseball at the time. I played baseball as a pitcher at Southwest Baptist and for Lebanon before that. And started kind of realizing that there's a lot to this. Went on to Central Missouri State University and got my master's there, back to Springfield at Forest for my doctorate. Then traveled down to Louisiana for a pre- and postdoctoral internship and tasted the flavors of Louisiana and all the culture they have to offer.
Beautiful.
Ended up out in Boston where I ended up staying on faculty for a little while. So there's a lot going on there. Only child. Parents, dad was originally from Camden County, was born there. Mom originally from Lebanon. My grandmother was the first female pilot ever in Laclede County.
Really?
Yeah.
I
love that
year?
little factoid. Well, that's another piece of the story is so we know that it was 1941 because we figured out later, 5 months later, not even that my mom was born in 1942. So my grandmother was pregnant with my mom when she did her solo flight in 1941. And I have the coolest picture. I didn't know this was going to be my question I would have brought for you. But yeah, so that was special. Grandpa had already had his pilot's license, but
so your grandpa was a pilot also. Okay,
and
so
then
ran in the family.
Yeah, and so she came along and did that. And
it's cool that your mom was technically on the
flight. So she didn't really do it solo, right?
Yeah.
Mom was on board too.
So
we love that story.
If we were seeking like a Guinness Book of World Records, would they still call it a solo flight?
I don't know. What would the rules be? I don't know. Rules change, don't they? Yeah, they do.
Rules are meant to be broken.
Yeah, I guess so. That's all part of mental health.
Well, and that's a whole. I love studying personalities, and done a lot of different types of personality tests and all that
assessments,
kind of stuff. Assessments, and I know that I do not live in a black and white world. I live in a gray world. I love everything in the middle. Some things just are meant to be twisted and turned, and sometimes rules just are meant to be changed.
They are, aren't they? They are. I think one of the things that I like about what I do in mental health, people do say helping people. I like problem solving. And if you're good at problem solving, then you help people. If you're not really good at problem solving, you probably don't help people. But a lot of people that I have seen over quite a few years now, nearly 30. It's about problem solving and helping people factor in the big picture and also see what they need to do about their own thinking to make it more accurate. So when did I start recognizing that? Probably in baseball at some point, because there are a lot of skills and strategies that I didn't know that I probably had. I sort of, part of my reputation in baseball was throwing in tough situations, bases loaded, no outs, scores tied, and I would come in. And there were a lot of things that I think we do as far as baseball goes, or sports, or any competition actually, for that matter, that we have that's kind of a natural something. We need to learn to do those on demand. And we have different life circumstances that require certain things out of us. That's why I'm excited to talk about it today, because one of the things that I enjoy most is taking what we know about theory and research and what actually works, not telling somebody how to do their life, but taking these other pieces and translating that to fit the lives of people, particularly people that are close to me, people that I care about, people in the community, people in the state. That is so important to me, that we're actually applying things that we know work. We can't deny that. The science behind it, without being sciencey about it.
Right, because it's how you feel, and we don't necessarily think about the science behind what makes us think and feel the way we do. Right. We often just can't switch a feeling, but we can switch our thinking that affects how we feel. And so that's the cognitive behavioral model that's so important and tried and true in the research for years now. We know that that's what works. If you're going to change your brain, people wonder all the time, well, what's the old joke about how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the bulb needs to want to change. I translate that, and it requires effort on our part to do something different. And what do we know? We don't like to do something different. We've never done it that way before. And that's sometimes one of the first things that we have to look at is, well, how do we get somebody to at least try something different and get out of the rut that we may be in? We all face those ruts. We also have very, very normal ways of responding to circumstances in our lives. And sometimes we don't even know what really a normal response would be. I've got example after example of that, but I'll let you ask the questions. Well, yeah, we'll dive deep into that. I want overall question to kind of kick us off is, why are we struggling? And before you answer that, you can it seems like everyone is carrying something these days, some heavy load these days, whether it's stress, anxiety, burnout, uncertainty of something. Do you feel that people are struggling more than they used to? Or are we just talking about it more?
Yeah, so let me say first about stress. If we don't have stress, we're not alive. We have distress, and we have what's called eustress. Weddings, birthdays, fun things. They're still stressful because we have to anticipate them, but it's a good kind of stress. We enjoy it. The distress, the things that we don't like, having to go to a funeral or paying taxes, or I'm trying to think some of the mundane things that we just kind of procrastinate on, that's distress. But stress in general, we have to have it. If we're not, our heart's not beating. So managing stress is really the key, and that's where we get into the cognitive behavioral pieces, how we think about it, how do we strategize, how do we plan in advance, who do we confide in, who do we build relationships with, all of these things, because we all have those people that we have relationships with that are stressful, ineffective. We roll the call over when we see their number. Yeah. I don't do that to anybody, in case anybody's wondering about that.
Me neither.
I know you don't. I don't, but you know what I'm saying.
That's why I use text messages. You respond when you can.
You can, and take the read off of there, so they don't know when you read it. But the key really is, how do we manage all of those things being normal humans? Are we more stressed now? Oh, I think so. I think there are things that it's not just are we more stressed, it's why are we more stressed? Why do we have more burden? I would say technology has really caused a lot of problems. I think we got it right with the microwave oven, that it actually saves us time. But from there, I think it's been downhill. I'm not sure that...
But technology can bring us joy.
Oh, yes. It can bring us so much joy and heartache, and reduces our attention span and shapes our brains. Yeah. But I think that is one thing that we do have a lot of problems with now. Technology is making life easier, but also how many times in the day do you change what autocorrect changed for you that you didn't intend for it to be changing? And just that little something for me is stressful. That's a bigger stress than dealing with what people bring to me in my office sometimes.
What would you feel is the biggest misconception when it comes to mental health?
That you're weak if you are talking about your own mental health. That's the number one stigma.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing I want to talk about today.
Yeah. Well,
that we're going to talk about rural Missourians. We're talking about farmers and ranchers, and that load of tying those into one sentence that includes mental health is a struggle. Yeah. And that misconception.
It's a struggle, but man, it's doable though.
Yeah,
it is doable because it goes back to knowing what is sort of a normal response. We didn't get a chance to talk about things historically in our culture because strength was really what translated to success. If you could endure your work ethic, you were nonstop, and that does translate into farmers, agriculture, sustainability. And I don't mean sustainability in terms that we use it today. I'm talking about survival sustainability.
How can I sustain this level of stress?
and I think it's really unique, particularly in the agricultural world. There are a lot more factors there that you can't control.
Oh.
Number one, weather.
Most of them you can't control.
Yeah. And so a lot of what we have to look at is, well, how do I control? Well, you control how you perceive it. A big piece, and I'll get into this later if we have the avenue for doing that, is probability estimation and overestimation. We do that a lot. That's what keeps us up a lot at night when we're thinking about, what's the likelihood of something happening? We usually overestimate something happening, and then therefore we have a lot of stress and anxiety about that. And just because it happened once doesn't mean it's going to happen consistently. Anyway, I can go there if you want to.
When we talk about farmers and ranchers and we talk about business owners, rural Missouri is full of business owners. Rural America is full of business owners. We talked about they're resilient, they're hardworking, they're independent. They're used to handling problems that they can fix. Sometimes that's risk. Sometimes that is managing the weather. Sometimes that is the markets and things like that. So they tend to be wired that way. So when someone is wired that way, which I think that they typically are, what are those warning signs that stress is becoming something that's more serious, something that's they're not managing? How do we know? Maybe it's warning signs in ourselves or with a loved one.
Yeah. Honestly, we know that a lot of farmers present differently when they're reaching out for help.
Okay.
If they may not even know they're reaching out for help because of part of the culture that we know and understand. I came from a long line of farmers and preachers and teachers. I'm 6th generation Laclede County. And so we all have family stories about things that happen on the farm and everything in my family from, dealing with complete crop loss to people killed in tornadoes to all kinds of things that's part of how we learn how to think about our families and our capacities. Oftentimes, primary care folks will see agricultural folks in their office when they can get there, if it's accessible, and that's another issue we can discuss. But they often just feel off. Something's not right. They feel off. And that's usually a good indication that there's something going on with mental health. We don't have to really be articulate about something, but we know something's off. It's not quite right. I would be stunned if many people would come in and be able to say, well, my mood has been very labile. No. That's not what it is. That I have intermittent this or that. No, it's that something's off. And we need to be thinking about what is going on with mental health at that point.
So things that could be off would be maybe they don't even realize their blood pressure is high or they
don't feel right.
Diet's different. They're more tired. They're not sleeping.
Right. Well, those are the questions that should be asked then.
Okay.
But when it's presented in feeling off or different. And that really is what we have to get rural providers to be listening for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not missed. So it's not just, we hope you'll sleep better, or take Tylenol, or those sorts of things. It's a bigger picture. And so we have to listen for that. And I think that's one of the big pieces that we are looking at as far as just education. How do we get people to, how do we make a dent in the statistics that we're seeing happening with farmers and in agriculture?
We talked about those in agriculture being strong, or business owners, entrepreneurs, they have a sense of strength and success. So how often are successful people turning out to be carrying the heaviest burdens? Do you see that often, or are we generalizing?
Yeah, I think it's hard to just kind of compartmentalize that. If I'm understanding your question right.
I like to ramble in my questions.
Rambling's
so they
good.
may not be out clear.
No. And I'm not taking aim at that. I think what you're making me think about as you ask that question has a lot to do with, well, are the successful people, are they better at managing something? Are they doing something differently? And maybe not. You're getting into kind of dipping our toe into like resilience and the concept of resilience and what makes us have longevity when it comes to psychological capacity.
And a lot of that's going to be like the career path, but also you're just who you are innately, your personality.
Exactly. And I think resilience, we learn that from other people. We watch other people, see how they do it. We also, and I say this with athletes that I work with any type of performance. If you don't have the capacity or the time to practice bouncing back from failure, you're really hurting yourself. You need to practice that, because it's often the person that knows how to bounce back from failure that actually takes the lead.
So comparing, like using the analogy of an athlete and a farmer. Okay.
Yeah.
You talk about, maybe it's an athlete bouncing back from an injury, a farmer bouncing back from a lost crop. How do you work through the mindset of that loss with whether it's an athlete or a farmer, like that mental state? And like, because like on the farmer side, we're talking dollars and dollars mean paying bills and reinvestment into that farm.
Right. And for an athlete, depending on what the level is, same thing.
Yeah.
Dollars, contracts, career loss. Identity loss. That's a big piece of
and
this.
And both of them,
well.
Identity. This is who I am. I don't know anything else.
Absolutely. And you have to look at what it is that you're going to accept about your circumstance and what are you going to do about it. So, again, the factors that we can control, many of these factors we cannot control. And if we worry about them, I would ask, and some people think I'm naive probably hearing me say this. I'll just qualify it. But I still would ask them to consider it. How much worry does it take to actually change something that we can't control? How many hours of worry is that? What is the goal in worrying? You think worrying, could you worry faster if it's going to change it? I would worry faster if I'm going to change something, but
if
really
you knew you could change it.
Well, you're making my point, right?
Oh,
yeah, that's good. That's good. I'll give you a cue card.
Okay, good.
But you're doing well.
Thank you.
But that's really what it boils down to is, well, how much, and I can worry too about things, but I think I've got a lot of practice in dealing with my own life experiences on what I can actually change. There are things that I want in my life. I've said this before. There are things that I want in life that I cannot have, period. And at some point we have to accept that and then adjust and pivot around those things. So worrying is a big deal for our agricultural community. Maybe you're selling stocks somewhere in New York, or you're selling Girl Scout cookies and you aren't going to get the prize. Whatever it is, we worry, but worry doesn't translate to effective change. Oftentimes we're fearful of what we think is going to happen in the future. We call that the fortune-telling error. You maybe have heard me talk about that. I've mentioned it before when I've spoken here and there. But we try to predict what the future is and what we think is going to happen if something doesn't happen the way we want it to. And then we get pretty uptight and anxious about that. Certainly sometimes are surprised too when I wasn't even thinking about that and something good happens. Well, it's because worry doesn't really affect the outcome. It's something that we have to manage.
Over the feeling of being overwhelmed. If someone listening right now has this sense of being overwhelmed about something, what is the very first thing that they should do?
I think one thing is looking to the closest relationship you have and just sharing a tidbit with that person, whether it's a spouse or your neighbor or somebody that's close to you at church. Church community is huge, really huge around all of this. Letting somebody know that you're feeling like overwhelmed. We'll usually share that, but we use it. If you listen, there's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of dark humor, self-deprecating humor, but we're actually sharing something that we really wish that somebody else would ask us about. It's like, I didn't sleep last night. I kept tossing and turning over whatever. And we laugh, oh, me too. And then that's the end of the conversation. So I think listening with those ears are important as well, because we've got to get past that stigma. And people don't like that. Why? Well, it's uncomfortable, and we're trying to reduce the discomfort, aren't we? Especially when we're uncomfortable.
Well, I think that, I'll turn a little personal on me. I think like there's been several things, whether it be in my personal life or career-wise, where I was just like, I can't let anybody know that this is the way I feel, or that I'm not perfect, or that I can't tackle this or achieve this. And that's coming from a high achiever, innovative mindset. That's who I am. But there was finally a point a few years ago where I was like, someone had used the term, well, do you feel overwhelmed? And I was like, yes, I feel overwhelmed. So that word really triggered with me positively, because I finally could put a word to how I was personally feeling with certain situations. And so, like, I think we overuse anxiety and stress. Like, I feel like those are big umbrellas, but for me personally, the word overwhelmed was more tangible. And so, I don't know. I hope that resonates.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's how you experience that too, being overwhelmed. There is, I think, a developmental point in our lives. As kids, we don't have too much to worry about. We have stuff to worry about. Homes that aren't predictable, people who aren't safe. There are things to worry about. But typically, childhood's pretty okay. Some of the most resilient in our world are kids, because they've not had a lot of other stuff load in there, so they just kind of figure it out and bounce back. Adolescence is more about invincibility, and we carry adolescence a long time. We're doing that, 15, 16, 18, 19. Arguably, you can be in your low 20s, you're still an adolescent. And you've not had a lot of life experience at that point.
Brain's not fully developed.
Yeah. But I do think that we get to that point where we start realizing that we can't just keep doing everything that we're doing and adding on and doing all of those things at once. And I think that's when we start feeling overwhelmed. I felt overwhelmed first in grad school. It was like I just signed up for too many classes, and I had too many other things that I was invested in, and I was coaching a little bit of baseball, and I was having church activities 3 nights a week, and I signed up. I'm not going to tell you, it's embarrassing how many classes I signed up for grad school, including on the weekend. And I was like, I can't do all this.
Yeah, not invincible.
But that's part of being normal human development, is realizing you do have limits, and a good, healthy adult manages that. So learning to say no, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, because we have social consequences for that.
Yeah. And I think that's as a high achiever, it's like, it's okay to say no. I'm learning that. I'm working on it.
Yeah. And a lot of people who won't accept your no, just because you say it doesn't mean it's accepted. They usually they're already better prepared for your no than you are. Wrote about that in one of the chicken soup books that I did.
Yeah.
And talking about how to say no to people. And you need to be prepared to give them an alternative to you, not just tell them no, but tell them what they should go do instead of using you.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're coming in with their angle. You can come back in with yours.
Yeah. And you have to do that. We know that people comply more with requests if you give them a reason why they need to comply. just on simple things. Even the research that was done was really, really simple. Like it had to do with getting in line at a copy machine and why I need to do that. My boss has an emergency. I need to cut in line at the copy machine. Got a very similar response to, I need to cut in line because I'm having chicken for dinner. People still let you cut in line. And it was the request, can I cut in line? All they needed was a reason. They didn't even need to have a real good reason, and they still would be more apt to let you cut in line. Same thing with telling people, no, I can't do it, and here's what I think you should do, and here's why, and then send them in that direction.
And then they receive that as there's another option. You aren't my only. It's not so daunting to hear the no.
Right, exactly.
So let's, why do you feel, because there's no right or wrong answer, that in rural America, in the agricultural mindset, that we are seeing an increase of, I'll say it, farmer suicide, mental health crises.
And I think it's good for you to say that because it's serious and we can't just kind of step around it. The suicide rate in farmers is 4 times the typical average of non-farmers, and we've got to look at that. That's something that's very important to me. Why we have stresses that are imposing themselves on the farming community. We have to look at that seriously. I know what I think some of those factors are, and it's not that I'm brilliant. We know this from the research. What some of these are. Accessibility to services is a big one. If you think about suicide rate, okay, well, what are the 3 factors that we look at around suicide? It has to do with helplessness and worthlessness, and the worst indicator or the best indicator, it depends on how you want to look at it, but people who are suicidal, they've lost hope. It's hopeless. And we know that the hopeless piece of that triad that really describes depression, hopeless is really the one that is the indicator for people that's like, well, they've completely run out of options. If you think about being hopeless, you have no hope. It's a very bad spot to be in, and it's not a healthy spot to be in.
Well, I think we hear that we flippantly say, "Oh, there's no hope."
Yeah,
but that doesn't even cut it compared to.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Those folks that have those 3 factors, the helpless, hopeless, and worthless, they're very isolated. And when I talk about this part, I talk about when I'm talking about, I say this part, I'm meaning this part of the farming community and this crisis that we're seeing this reflected. I think about isolation, and people who are depressed are often isolated. Farmers are often already set up for this isolation.
Right.
You don't have a neighbor immediately next door. I've owned property where you've got to go down a long way to get down to the house, and you're down and through the woods.
Or hours in a tractor by themselves.
Yeah, the isolation piece, the connection. I think that's why part of the solution of this crisis is being able to really educate communities that farmers do belong to. Where do we go when we're not on the farm? Where do we go where we actually finally see another human? That's church, that's social groups, that's political groups, people that we can be connected with. The irony is there's so much distance physically between people, but the experience is very similar. We talked about,
I might go down a rabbit hole.
It's all right.
But that's okay. We talked about like the physical, like tangible isolation, meaning like actually seeing someone, feeling, but like, do you feel, and we've also negatively kind of talked about the stressors of technology, but do you feel that there is a potential help for that sense of isolation? Could be how they see another farmer on TikTok or someone else like that through social media. And I know social media has this negative context because we're comparing ourselves and things like that, but I'm just randomly thinking about when you feel isolated, but there's someone else online that's doing the same thing and I feel maybe more connected. Does that help fill a void potentially? I
think the thing that we are going to have to be looking at, and it's already been suggested, is teletherapy and teleconnection. Sure. And Missouri is fortunate to be in what's called PsyPact. And PsyPact is I'll describe it as kind of an overarching way of thinking about connecting different states and therapy across state lines. Missouri, but each state has to pass its own legislation. I think currently 42 different states have passed the legislation.
Are we there, Missouri?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Missouri's doing great.
Okay,
Missouri
good.
is really on the I would say cutting edge on a lot of things when it comes to that. We still have a way to go, right? Because we have to be able to have providers, but allowing providers perhaps to be able to access some of our rural communities that may be from different states. We're going to have to look at that. And there are a lot of really good people in Missouri are looking at that already. And I like being a part of problem solving. Right? This is a problem. If we solve it well, then people get help.
So you talk about providers from all over the country. And I think that should resonate with a stoic, strong-willed, dominant farmer. I guess what I'm saying is like they may not connect with someone local. Mm-hmm. They may not want to open up with someone who has the same zip code with them. But seeking that mental health with someone that might check all the boxes for them outside of their network seems like a win.
It sure could be, and it has to do with confidentiality, which is paramount to therapy. If I can't talk about me without risk, I'm not going to talk about me.
Right.
I'm going to suffer. I'm not going to reach out.
Suffer in silence.
Yeah. And to me, that's what the key components to everything I do in mental health is being able to protect confidentiality. Of course, I have to say we have laws, ethics that are in place to keep people safe that we have to abide by. But I'm willing to do what's necessary to keep people alive.
So resources for the rural communities, farmers and ranchers. We talked about just their doctor, using words I just don't feel right. But what resources are out there for someone who's like, I need help today, or I want to kind of investigate, I want to step my toes into the water to see, or for a loved one that they feel might need it.
And that's a big piece right there is those folks seeing change in others and trying to get help. I do think you have to reach out through your primary care if you can to begin with.
That's the word I couldn't come up with, primary care doctor.
Yeah, that's okay. But the primary care really is a go-to person, and try to be as direct and honest about that. I think that's where that can start. You can certainly reach out to people. One thing that is serving Missouri well, and other states too, is our 988 number that you can call, and it's the suicide support crisis line, and getting connected there is a really good. Those folks are sitting there waiting for calls. Think about that.
And trained,
and they are there to help you navigate it when you're not quite sure exactly what you're supposed to do. And I know lots of nooks and crannies of my county and other counties, and learning more about those as time goes on. And there are unique circumstances where people are very, very isolated, and that's I say unique. That makes it sound rare. It's not rare to be isolated in rural Missouri. And I think reaching out in that way, that's another incredibly important resource, because that way you can get rid of some of the isolation by somebody knowing about what's going on. And I think it's important to understand too, when you call a number like 988, you're not engaging with the government. Government regulation, government involvement, that's not what that's about.
You're anonymous.
Yeah, it's about you. It's about you feeling that overwhelmed feeling and trying to make it better. I think that's important. Letting others kind of reach out on your behalf, sometimes that's okay. Sometimes somebody needs to broker it for us a little bit, like, well, I'm not quite sure what to say. And it's like, well, you might say to your spouse, well, I've noticed you've been doing this and this. Well, I'm not sure how to describe that. Well, offer to call. It is.
Feelings into words.
It is very difficult. It's very difficult. And it's okay. It's difficult, but not insurmountable. Particularly if you're feeling hopeless. It feels like, why bother? I'll just, like you said, suffer in silence or worse.
Let's talk about kids. Let's talk about, I'm a parent, raising resilient kids in a world today, on the farm, off the farm, an athlete, non-athlete, kids of all ages. How do we do it?
Well, that's a big question.
Oh, I know.
Isn't it?
We narrow it down.
Yeah. I'll go back to the resilience and make that kind of relevant to kind of the rural areas. Work ethic is so important. And I was at a lunch earlier today, and we were talking about kind of how is competition changing with kids, work ethic, those sorts of things. Research shows if you're a kiddo and you've got a paying job before age 12, your work ethic's probably going to be better in the long run, meaning your life.
That means I have to pay my kids
a little bit.
I probably should.
In fact, your kids probably want me to ask you now for a raise for them.
Probably. So. And honestly, sadly, my daughter is probably one of my best listeners. Like, who's podcast dropping today? Who's it going to be? I'm not going to. She doesn't need to listen to
She's not this one. Yeah, this one's off. We skipped a week.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important because the little payoff. I remember I got an allowance for doing things around the house, a whole $1 a week. And I saved those up. I remember when I had $51 saved up, and I took it down to the savings and loan and put it in my savings account and saved it. And I think that actually paid for my first used car that was a 69 Cutlass. Yeah. So, but teaching our kids that cycle, oftentimes we give them responsibilities, but I think it's important for them to have a little bit of a payoff too.
Well, and I think that is one thing that the agricultural communities do well. I've not wrote a check to my kids yet, but in FFA on the farm with I had my SAE project was beef production placement, exchange of labor. You know, I kept track of those hours I got, in turn.
Exactly.
County fairs are really big in our communities, and we're buying these market animals, and we're working with them every day. We're feeding them. And a lot of times, like, mom and dad are footing the bill, but who's earning it? Right. Both daughters are in the show barn every single day. Yeah. And, on the way here, and she's 12, she's got them all lined up. She sent me a video of all of her heifers and steer and everything tied up, working with them. And like that, she's taking pride in that. But they get that paycheck at the end. Yeah. Also, that's that reward.
Absolutely.
For that hard work.
And I think that model is exactly spot on, because we need youth coming up and being that next generation of farmers. That's another problem that we have.
Sure.
Is that the farmers are aging as well. And as you age, you have more ailments, you have more sickness. Your kids might have actually left the farm to pursue other careers, or it's not unusual that there's a dual income on a farm, that you run the farm.
Sure. My parents both worked off the farm.
Exactly. So it's nonstop. And I think that's part of the stress that a lot of farmers do face, is that aging, medical issues, and that generation behind you may not be as available to you as you were to the generation before you. And it's no one's fault. It's just the reality, and we're trying to decipher what's going on to try to mitigate that.
So, kind of back to those kids, you talked about, earning something for their work pays off. What would be add to that, another thing that could help a parent today prepare their child for life's challenges?
I think they need to watch you problem solve. They need to see you do that. We know that from resilience. We learn to be resilient by watching other people be resilient. That's one thing that you can do. Some parents will have arguments in front of their kids so they can see that even in your closest intimate relationships that it can be resolved. It's not even a pet peeve. It's something even worse than that. During COVID and during political upheavals and elections, we had people saying, if you're not supporting the candidate that we're supporting, we don't want to talk to you. Don't come to Thanksgiving. That's not a misstep. That's evil when it comes to supporting families and family values. That's just wrong. And I've not heard yet one good argument that says that's a good way to go. And I get passionate about that, because family is so essential to who we are in rural Missouri. And, we all have that uncle that shows up that will embarrass us. I don't, just in case my uncle's watching. Not here. I mean, there are a lot of exceptions to you and me. But in general, we have those family members that can be problematic. But we don't ever cut them off. We don't cut them out. Those are our key people. That's that inner circle, and that's so valuable. So valuable.
So not sheltering our kids from challenges. Right.
But let your kids watch you. Let them watch you struggle, and let them watch you resolve that too. You don't. There's I wouldn't call it a fine line, because I hear this a lot, that some parents have emotional needs and they'll rely on their kids too much for their adult emotional needs. There's like, I call it a boundary problem.
Sure.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking let them, because as your kids, there's not a light switch that's thrown, right? That all of a sudden they're good problem solvers. They learn to do that over time with you, and you give them that instruction, and that's very helpful with resilience across the time.
In your profession, you see people at their worst, at their most difficult times. What gives you hope?
Well, I see people change. That's it, right? See people do that. I love it when somebody says that I never thought I would be doing this, and that's a real good payoff. I think, and just to kind of soften the stigma of what I do, you're right. I do see people at their worst, but I also see a lot of people at their best, because they realize they've got a valuable brain and they're trying to do something more with that brain, so they're not in crisis when they start. I see a lot of people who are in crisis, medically, psychologically, but I want to make sure that people understand, and this is not a pitch for me to build my private practice. My pitch is for people to entertain the fact that they've got an incredibly valuable, important organ, and that is their brain. I always say it's the 3 pounds you never want to lose, because it's so essential to understand that your brain is there to serve you. It's never stopping. People think, oh, we only use 10 to 15%. No, you're using 100% of your brain. It's happening all the time. Your brain doesn't shut off when you're sleeping. It has its own functions. It has its things that it needs to be doing. But seeing people in terrible times, I would say most frequently I see people when they're just going through life, just like people like you and me, that we're doing what we're doing, and I've hit a speed bump and I need some consultation around how to navigate this. To me, that's a bulk of who I see, because that's an important place to be there. I remind people, well, I'm an expert in behavior and thinking and feeling. You're an expert in yourself. Let's put our heads together and let's figure out how to navigate that. What makes sense? What do you want to accomplish?
So thinking about counseling, talk therapy, any type of communication about feelings and relationships, because I think that as an individual suffering from mental health, but maybe it's a relationship between family members who are farming together, or spouses that, what the hardest thing is starting and knowing that, you might know you need some help, some mediation, some professional guidance. How do you begin?
Yeah, I think that's where it's important for that person in a relationship to have another person they confide in, to understand and kind of get perspective on where their relationship is. One thing that we've not talked about that goes hand in hand with isolation is substance abuse. And it's not an unusual thing.
Right.
And you have kind of the public facing image or image of a couple that farms, or my parents in the dry cleaning business, or people who are teachers, couples that do similar work together. People perceive them as strongly partnered, and it's often an equal distribution of leadership and so forth. That may not be the case at all, but that's behind closed doors, and frankly, it's none of your business to know how we handle things in our house. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, it does. Yeah. It's because that's part of our fabric. That's who we are, is that we are also pretty tight-lipped. But I do think having someone to reach out to, those relationships, again, coming back around, that's why people that I've talked to, they'll come in sometimes and they'll say, no, you're not talking to anybody, right? They want me to say that in words, not just on a paper that they sign, that we agree that this is confidentiality. But that's so important that we do have those people to reach out to. And I count it a privilege to hear from people that are willing to share those things with me, and that reduces their isolation and maybe can make some changes. There are a lot of tough relationships out there.
Yeah.
1 and 2 fail in marriages.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed when somebody's willing to share, we've been married 55 years or 60 years. Or the other thing about this too, there's so many different ways of us to fill up our time today talking about things. I know we're just literally skimming the surface on deep dives.
I know. My brain is like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's always like that. So I try to tone it down, but I have so many, I want to deep dive.
Yeah. Well, here's a deep dive thought, at least. You have a couple they farm together and they age together as farming, and then one of them passes away. That changes. That changes the whole.
Who they are.
Yeah. I visited with somebody in an adjacent county recently and was so impressed about how that person shifted and is still keeping the farm going. And with that loss and how it changed, but that person is still eagerly taking in new information to keep that going. And the whole idea of legacy farms and century farms and the things that absolutely we better recognize those people, because those farms that have been around that long, that speaks volumes. That's in my opinion one of the highest badges of honor you can have in the state of Missouri.
Well, you're segueing into my next question perfectly. Keeping the farm in the family. That is one of the things we've had Wes Tucker with MU Extension and talking about estate planning, and the hardest conversation that you can have with your parents, with your grandparents, with your children is what's going to happen with the farm when I'm gone. So let's throw the mental lever at that. How would you work with someone, or you got a grandpa, a dad not interested in having the conversation about what's going to happen to the farm when I'm gone, because I don't want to relinquish control. I don't want to die. I'm strong. I will always be here. It'll be fine. Conversation.
You like tough questions.
That's why I sit in this seat.
Yeah, that's right. You're good at them. I think keep in mind what psychologists do. We don't impose values on people. We don't make decisions for people. A lot of people think that we do. What should I do? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, here are the three options that I see you've got. What are you going to pick?
Yeah.
And tell me why. You're asking a very important question, and you're looking at different layers of need. You're looking at different generations that are coming into that. I think it's important to have that conversation, and having that conversation in such a way that it's well, we don't have to worry about it now, but way down the road, what do you want? I don't think we should avoid that question. If you're fortunate enough to be able to have that conversation, it helps as you make decisions along the road, frankly, that you're involving the wishes of somebody else. It sounds like pre-planning for a funeral, but in some ways it's definitely pre-planning for legacy. And what do you want? We don't really talk too much about that, but psychologically it is something that we all have to think about and do. I think one thing it's important to consider, you could easily just do this well before someone comes to you. You can be in your 40s, thinking, well, I'm not even the halfway point yet. Yeah. But you could still write down what you would like and just put it away, put it somewhere, and just revisit that occasionally.
Well, and I think that's kind of like, it's almost like doomsday on your deathbed type thing. Those are not when you want to have these conversations. That's not when you're rational. That's not when you're thinking straight. Having the conversations about succession planning and LLCs and corporations and all those different things, trusts and wills, should be taking place when there's not a crisis.
Absolutely.
Because your brain can't handle it.
Yeah. You don't have the bandwidth for it at that point. So I'm not sure about actually answering your question. It's a good one.
There's not an answer, but it's a topic that we have to keep at forefront. And I think we just want to keep putting it on the back burner because I don't want to talk about when I'm gone.
Yeah. I think more than anything, I recommend that if you're going to have that conversation, go into it authentically and be genuine and real about it. Your advice is good. Not during a crisis. Let's do it when we don't have a crisis. What are you going to do with this? And what do you want to do? If we have the chance to do it the way you want to do it. We're assuming that, because somebody says, well, this is what I want. This is what you're going to get. Things change, right? But having that opinion about what that person would prefer is valuable. Ask anybody who didn't get to have that conversation. Oh, well, I would now be willing to be a little uncomfortable bringing it to the table because I didn't do it, and now I wish I had. I don't like, my biggest fear in life probably is regret. I don't like regret. And that's the one I steer clear of if I can. So sometimes I have to push myself now to avoid regret later. And it can be regret over simple things like,
wish I didn't have that for lunch or something.
Exactly. We're vibing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I kind of had a light bulb moment when we were talking about this because I work in the world of banking, and I've worked with attorneys and estate planners and things like that. And we talk about the bank being a partner as you're planning for your future. And this is, I'm going to use the on the farm. And like when Wes Tucker with MU talks about this, he talks about, your team of experts that help you, your attorney, your CPA, your bank. What about bringing in a psychologist?
I've done it.
A counselor, someone who
You're right.
can help communicate.
Yep.
Help keep the conversation flowing. You're not answering questions. That's not your job. You're not telling them what to do.
Yep.
But, we talk about this professional team that works with your business because farming is business, or your small business, as an entrepreneur, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. And I've helped families navigate that intergenerational discussion. And I think it's very important. Is it something that we are seeing happen a lot? No. I probably do that more in my office, and the bank never knows that we had that discussion.
Sure.
I think it'd be interesting if the bank included that. It's like, this is part of our team.
I'll bring it up.
And you guys can have this conversation here, or because people don't like to air their dirty laundry. You got 3 kids and mom and dad, and you're figuring out succession plan, and then all of a sudden you figure out one of the 3 kids was always jealous of the other one because they were treated better, and here we go again.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about that.
Or one kid never came back, left the farm and never came back, but they're still a kid,
Right. And an heir.
An heir.
Yeah. No, I think that's good stuff, and because that has to be navigated and figured that out. That's one of those big picture solutions that you have to look at. You have to hold all those factors together and come up with a solution that seems suitable for everybody. Not always easy to do. The other thing you have to watch out in that situation, and I've seen this happen as well, on you have somebody that navigates it, but then they have a financial interest in that navigation, not just a bank that is going to protect you and partner with you, but somebody who's a financial advisor, and now they're trying to make sure that you don't upset the cart too much because that's a percentage they get to keep. It gets really complicated.
Sure.
It really does. But that's just one word of caution that I've seen happen that I've had to help repair.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that when we're thinking of I'm going back to my banking world right now.
Good.
In marketing a bank, I don't think like a banker. I think of a consumer, And I think a lot of people think of money as fearful, and it's scary, and making those financial decisions or investments or whatever, it makes you feel like a kid, makes you feel inadequate. And in this conversation, I kind of think the conversations about mental health are that same way. We're becoming, in today's, it's 2026, in today's world, we're becoming, that topic is coming up more. So it seems less fearful. But those life decisions, keeping the farm in the family, what am I going to cook for dinner? What is the market going to do next year, are scary, which equals stress, anxiety.
Yeah, it does. And that's where we have to learn to think about that. You started earlier talking about why is this happening? I mentioned isolation. We also have a lot of people that have come back to farming also served in the military. And if you look at that, that's another factor. Are we meeting the needs of our vets? We've got the VA system, but it's not easy to get to sometimes. What are we doing from that aspect? We have all these other factors that still impact. Anybody listening to us could feel like, there's just too much of that. It's overwhelming, but it's not. It's all stuff that we can make progress in our thinking. We can change our thinking. We can increase our social interactions with people. We can figure out how to get a hold of services, even if it feels minimal to begin with. I'm really a big advocate of the teletherapy because I think it's something that farmers are very interested in technology and want to make those strides.
Some of the fastest adopters of technology, which I think people don't realize.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why teletherapy is a really good fit for the farming communities. I don't think you were going to know the answer to this, but are most health plans providing that as a source, like teletherapy? Like, is it part of an insurance plan package? Yeah, many are.
Okay.
Many are. You have to look at each plan because there are so many different plans on. But that's a really good question for farmers to be asking.
Farmers are cheap. They're not going to pay extra.
Yeah, there you go. And I think that that's something we can even be looking at as, life moves along in Missouri and making sure that bases are covered and that those issues are made available. I think that, things that are done legislatively in agriculture need to be done all looking through the lens of mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health needs to be at that table. I'm convinced of that.
And I think that the seat's almost there, but maybe it's not. I think the conversations are there. But
actually, what you're doing here by having this discussion is exactly what needs to be happening. I'll just put you on the spot. I don't want this visit with you and me to be the last one because it has to be something that's ongoing to help people hear and process that and then think about, okay, well, how does this apply to me? Does it apply to me? And you hear a different message, even chatting with somebody besides me, but keeping the topic on the table is really important.
Yeah. Challenge me for that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Dr. Jeff Brown, what was your plan B?
My plan B?
Yes.
Oh, let's see.
Let's go back. Did you have a plan B? You're going to be a professional baseball player? Was that your
That'd been great, wouldn't it? Some days you could really get a job easily around, plan B would have been, I think what you're doing is actually something I like because I like people.
Yeah.
And I think some sort of broadcasting or news something, but on the ground stuff, not being told what to say and how to do it and be given a narrative. I'd want to help translate that narrative and make it meaningful for people. I've had other interests over time that have, and I'm not talking about recently, I'm talking historically. Sure. Public service. I've served on a state committee for psychology appointed by a governor, and we look at tough cases and protecting the public. So that stirs me, those sorts of tasks.
Did you ever want to go into the dry cleaning business?
Well, I guess you could say that I'm still in it. I never left it, right?
You haven't,
yeah.
Do you know how to run the machines?
Of course.
Okay. I don't even know how
Of course.
I need to come visit. I need a tour.
Yeah.
Your mom give me a tour.
Yeah, we'll get you hooked up.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've worked in the dry cleaning business, and once you know it, in
probably
fact,
not changed much.
Not too much.
Technology probably hasn't touched that as much as others.
Not as much. As you have anything, technology tries to touch it, but really, it's the knowledge base on so many different things that come in. It's not just. I'll give you a good example. Somebody that brings in a comforter. Okay, well, what's your comforter stuffed with? How is it sewn together? What's the fabric that is on the outside of it? Is it down? I mean, there's so many. It's just a simple something, but it's not just getting the comforter cleaned.
All those elements come into play.
All those things, and of course, I will brag on our folks, our girls. They know it. And they're going to answer. And if they may say, you just need to get a new comforter. This one is beyond. This one's done. This one's done. Yeah. Or they'll tell them, you should have been dry cleaning this well before now.
Yeah, you're going to have to run that through twice.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that is something that I've never sort of left that. And I'm thankful to my parents for probably and definitely teaching me the most about public service and helping people and being part of a community. That's what we're talking about today, right?
Absolutely.
Is belonging. Having relationships and friendships and things that really matter more than a lot of things that we deal with in our world. Those relationships and taking time for relationships. My mom has continued in the business well into her 80s. And there are a few things right now that she's doing some heavy lifting with, but she also is, given the fact that if she could be right there in the middle of it all, she would. And we talk about it all the time. So you never really get out of being part of a really important, special community, and we're thankful for that.
Well, I'm going to take you up on that tour because I'm now fascinated with how dry cleaning works.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to end with this. If listeners can remember one thing from today's conversation, what would you hope it is?
I would hope on our conversation about mental health that they would remember that regardless of what they're dealing with today, they have an important part in controlling how to change it. That whatever you're dealing with today is not permanent. And that goes good or bad. You have a responsibility for feeling great to perpetuate that. If you're feeling miserable and rough, you can change that. So the brain changes, and that's because you take effort to change it, even when you feel like you don't have much effort left.
Jeff, thanks for letting me go beyond the gate
You bet.
with you. On YouTube, like and subscribe. New episodes drop every other Wednesday. For more content, follow Around the Ozarks and Beyond the Gates on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our daily newsletter at aroundtheozarks.com. Join us next time for more stories of grit, growth, and the spirit of rural life.